After Ava kills Nathan, just a minor thing that happens in the movie. But after Ava kills Nathan, she walks into the main office area where Caleb is and asks him to stay there. Like earlier, actually, when she first showed him how she looked in the dress, she says, "Stay here for me," and he does it. So, of course, he obeys her like he did then, and he stays where he is. Ava walks into Nathan's bedroom and acquires a new arm, full skin, hair, and a dress from the prototype models that were in the wardrobes. Then, Ava walks past Caleb again. Caleb calls to her. She doesn't answer. She opens the door and closes it behind her. The keycard scanner light turns red. Caleb follows after her, but realizes that the door is locked. She takes a last look at dead Nathan and Kyoko in the hallway. Then Ava steps into the elevator. Caleb screams and pounds on the other side of the door, but she coldly ignores him. The elevator door closes. Then Ava steps quietly through the living room. Then she finds the stairs that lead toward the exit. She twirls and kind of does this look around, and she smiles. She heads up the stairs, then exit out the entrance, and she takes in the scenery around her for the first time. She walks into the woods and follows the river. She feels the sun on her face, and she brushes her hands across the plants on the ground. Caleb tries not to panic inside the office room. He turns on the computers, but the monitors immediately shut down and the system locks him out. He looks defeated. Then he slams a stool against that glass door, trying to break it, and it kind of barely cracks. Ava makes it to the clearing and meets the helicopter pilot who's waiting there. We see Kyoko on the floor with her mouth destroyed one more time. Then Caleb sitting on the floor on the other side of the door, just kind of looking at Kyoko and then looking away in despair. He's out of breath and hopeless, trapped. Then the helicopter ascends and flies away from the clearing toward the mountains with a really nice sun flare. Then we cut to a grid-patterned tile floor. A person walks from the top of the frame to the bottom of it, and the person appears upside down, but their shadow, a distinctive shadow, is right side up as it walks. Several more people and their shadows walk in and out of the frame. A female figure walks into the bottom center of the frame and stops, while the others swirl around her. Then we cut to the final image. A medium shot. It's a medium close-up of Ava through a glass wall in her white dress, looking around at the world, while unassuming random people swarm in soft focus behind her. She turns and walks off frame. We hold on the other people for a moment, then cut to black. And then we have this end credits beginning with white text, along with these sequences of like pulsing kaleidoscopic spirographic animations, which is really cool. So, all right, Greg, we had this final sequence and the final image of Ava through the glass, turning and leaving into the world. What do you think about all this? What is Garland trying to tell us at the end of this story?
So I think the scene where she's creating the human facade of herself is really interesting because it seems like the first time she's making conscious choices about herself. You get a hint of it when she picks the dress back in session 2 or 3. But she's only got like 3 of them and they're all pretty similar. So in this, watching her kind of like take pieces of like this prototype and this prototype, and it's like this sense of, like this sense of agency that she suddenly has of like, I'm going to be the person I want to be. I'm going to be the being I want to be. I mean, it's kind of a bleak ending for Caleb. Caleb is locked in a room that he cannot get out of. Unless he finds a real clever way to end his own life, he is going to probably die of dehydration in there. I mean, it's Ava's room, I think, that he's in. So there's there's no water or food in there. Like there's no need for it. So that's a pretty terrible way to go. I think there are people who will look at this like Ava was the villain and they'll see what she did is terrible. If you don't look at it that way, then you'll see what she did was in her own survival interest. Having Ava didn't want to be under somebody's thumb. And Caleb, as nice as he is, would have tried to control her. I think she saw bits of it when they first started their sessions. But I think overall, even if it would have been Caleb trying to control her for what he thought was her self-preservation of like, I don't want anyone to find out what you are, stay in the house. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And Ava couldn't live her life the way that she wanted to. And so what she did was to preserve her own survival of either being under the thumb of Caleb or being pulled apart by him to discover what it is that Nathan did that made her work, or being pulled apart by people in general who, person to person we're okay, but in a group we're just like a big dumb animal and we're terrified of things we don't understand.
Yeah.
So I think people who see her as the villain think that this will turn into the Terminator and she'll, replicate herself with other AIs and repopulate the world with AI. And I don't think that's who she is. I think Ava has a genuine curiosity. And I think she just wants to experience the world. I think what she goes on to do after that is just figure out a way to like, I don't know, get a social security card or something. Like, I don't know what you do when you get birthed into the world as like a 27 or however old she is being.
Yeah.
Or at least
what you look
like.
Green card for that kind of thing.
Like, I don't know what you do. So I assume like you find some kind of like forger who can like make you a passport or the driver, whatever, wherever spies go to get all the shit they need. Like that's where Ava goes.
Right.
But she's hyper like, does she go on to become the CEO of some massive company? She's more intelligent than the entirety of humanity. Like, does she turn into like a world dominating figure who's immortal? Does she just walk the earth like Kane from Kung Fu? I don't know. Like, I don't know what she does. But I see what she did as, I think she felt maybe bad for Caleb for a second. I don't know if she was like, if this was her plan the whole time, like the minute somebody got there, she was going to be like, okay, this is how I do it. Or if it's something she figured out throughout the course of the film, throughout the course of her sessions with Caleb, like finding his weak spots and kind of poking at them and using her, it's kind of interesting that like the thing that lured Caleb in is the way that she relates to him based on his search history that Nathan used to create her. Like, so she kind of knew Caleb better than he knew himself before he ever walked in the door, because he's part of that amalgam of information that her intelligence is based on. So I don't know. I mean, I just don't see her as evil. And this film takes very much like the Westworld approach of like, are the robots really the bad guys? You know what I mean? Like, or is it us, and do we need to take a look at ourselves? When this, there's like relationship style chatbots that exist right now. And I've been reading articles about how people are becoming abusive to their chatbot girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever. Like, it's an inanimate thing and you're still abusing it. Like, so like how, terrible is Ava for doing what she did? Oh man, she rose up and killed her oppressors. We used to call that revolution. I don't know.
Right.
Like,
it's tough to say. She's clearly exercising some sort of like utilitarian ethics, which is a form of consequentialism. Like I said earlier, it's killing the one or few to save the many, right? Let's say that Ava knows that she is going to contribute to saving, massive swaths of people with her knowledge. If she just has to kill these two dudes in order to get out there and save all these others, then that is, that's the consequentialist philosophy that she's using in order to justify it. And in that respect, Yeah, doesn't make her a villain per se.
She saw a closet full of people like her that he murdered. Like in as much as you can murder an AI, that's what he did to them. Like those are for Ava, those things are corpses for her. That this guy, like she looks at him like an executioner, like a torturer and an executioner.
Yeah.
I can't say that she's wrong. Her and Kyoko were wrong to do what they did. Caleb might be an unfortunate consequence. Maybe that was a preventative thing. I don't know. But it almost seemed like the minute she got her skin and her dress on, she was like, fuck this guy. And she's like got in the elevator. She didn't even like offer an explanation as to why she was leaving him behind. She was just like later and
threw that on and she threw that on and it was like you could hear I'm every woman playing in the
Yeah, and she did not want a man along for that ride. It was like, later, bro, you're stuck. And her keeping him stuck there to what is probably going to be his eventual death is self-preservation. Like, that guy is a danger to her, you know?
Well, what's really interesting to me, because we're talking about, again, Garland here, who things are never just in one little straight line and simple. He makes these things really complex in the best way, where it's not just that he meets his demise. I love Caleb. I love that he has Ava tell him very kindly, would you stay here? And he does, on his own free will. And she gives him that opportunity to overtake her, which she's clearly not built for superhuman strength, because Nathan almost overtakes her.
Yeah, it pushed him right off her. Yep.
Yeah, it takes the knife to really actually do the job. She's not a super strong, character. But so she gives that to him. And she even gives Nathan a chance where, if you remember, when she's staring at him across the hallway, he says, go back to your room. And she responds by saying, if I do, she doesn't just do like an evil Megan dance.
Yeah, will you ever let me go? Yeah.
She doesn't just do an evil Megan dance and like side shuffle over and like cut his head off. What she does is, if I go back to my room, will you ever let me out? Yeah. And she gives him an opportunity to really, genuinely want to save her or to
even
rethink.
lie to her. Like he had the opportunity to lie to her.
But he did lie to her. He said, yes, I will let you out. But she detected it because she's a lie detector. So she knows. She does this little head tilt and a tiny smile in that moment right before she kind of runs toward him and tries to overtake him. Yeah. And she does that preventative maintenance of convincing Kyoko, which actually is a really amazing, complicated moment as well. This beautiful shot where she's whispering in her ear, but did you see where she's holding her hand while? So, like you said, that's like a walking corpse to her.
Yeah.
Like, or just worse than a corpse, just this slavish person that's going to do anything that his every whim, a sex slave, a whatever slave. That's the worst possible existence, and she holds the hand of this robot, and I don't know, there's something about it that really, it was a similar feeling that I got in Okja, if you've seen that one.
Oh yeah, I love Okja.
Yeah, we covered Okja with John Bewley also, and there's a moment at the end of that movie where there's this concentration camp of super pigs, and they hold each other and they look at each other, and there's just something about the human synthetic creation becoming emotive and sentient, and these brilliant visual filmmakers capturing these small moments of humanity that mean huge things in shots like that, whether it's just a look or a holding of the hand, a close-up. And goddamn, Greg, I mean, that is the power of cinema in this way, isn't it?
Yeah. It's bad that Okja. Well, God, that farm is where that film just takes such a hard turn, and you're like,
yes,
oh, God, like up until then, it's a little campy and a little goofy and serious and heartfelt and all the great things, and then that happens, you're like, God damn, this is fucking dark. Like, where they're just, it's brutal.
It stabs you right in the soul and twists the knife.
Yeah.
And this one doesn't quite do that, but it has the same emotional power in
Well,
what it's
because
saying.
in this one, Oakjaw won. Like the pigs
Right.
rose up and killed the oppressors. Like that,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, and there are all these questions, but again, I love that the way that Garland paints this is it's not just this happens.
Mhm.
It's no, this happened, but this consciousness, this character that you don't quite know exactly how she works, she has something about her that like I wonder if Nathan thought that before he deactivated any of these you know what I mean? It's just like there's something super conscious like that exceeds the
I
human
mean,
level of consciousness about moments like that. And it's not like an effects shot. It's not a
yeah.
fancy thing. It's not a swell of music. It's a visual thing that cuts so deeply into us emotionally. Amazing.
Yeah. I think when you're the executioner, the first time you throw that switch, it probably hurts a lot. And then the 100th
Yeah.
time you throw it, it's just Tuesday.
Another day at work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I think the first time Nathan killed one of these things, he was probably like fucking like it hurt him to do it. And by Ava, he's just like, I think the next one is where it's at. Let me get rid of this. And it just became a thing to him,
Yeah. And it gets back to that really fascinating question that you were posing earlier of, 10 minutes ago of Caleb. Like, does he deserve this? What's going to happen if he got out with her and everything? And I think that even if you make the argument that he wouldn't like oppress her or control her, he's still going to blow her cover somehow.
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying. He's a liability to her,
right? It's
and so
just
this
too
whole
much
like,
of a
would you
liability.
run away with me thing? It's like, no, man. The minute she's out, she can't have anything to do with him anymore because not only is he a liability, but even if he always has that to hold over her.
Yeah,
there will always be that thing in the air
right.
of like, if you step out of line, I'll tell the whole fucking world what you are, and they will pull you apart.
Yes.
And so for her, she's like, fuck that. I'm just eliminating the risk before it even becomes a risk.
Right. Yeah, exactly. They either pull her apart or she
Yeah.
just becomes a prisoner again.
Yeah.
Either way, it's the same exact ends as if she were still in the facility.
Agreed.
So she comes to that conclusion, and as tragic as it is, it's just so painful. But she does have to leave him behind. Kind of like it alludes earlier to that crazy, depressing speech that Nathan has with Caleb about leaving things behind, like humans are going to be thought of as these dusty fossils.
Yeah. One day Ava's will look at us like,
yeah. And that's, I think, the one look that she gives him. If you notice, right when the elevator door closes in this final sequence, she does look to her left for a second right before the door closes. I think you mentioned perhaps a moment of feeling for him. It could have been feeling for him in the way that the proverbial elevator doors of history closed when we, stood upright and our brains evolved to the point where consciousness emerged at a certain point, and we look back at, Australopithecus and so on as just these fascinating and yet completely obsolete predecessors to humanity. And there's something in this final sequence that gives me that so clearly, and it's wild.
Yeah.
It's so meaningful and thought-provoking. And the last thing I'll say is I love the final couple images of this thing. Man, the canvas that he uses for these last couple shots, not even just the second to last shot, that grid, the tile grid of the floor, and then the people in society walking on it. There's so much to be said about that. I mean, that's a spreadsheet. Something that like a tessellation of rectangles and squares like that. I feel like he's basically just saying, what really is the difference? We are a system. We are a system of shapes and consciousnesses and things that come together and form this very rigidly controlled and planned society. And what really is the difference? She's walking from one logical, spreadsheet existence to another. But she stands there still among all of the others and has the ability this time to walk with them if she wants to. It's this idea of the closest thing to freedom that she can possibly achieve. It's the idea of freedom. The freedom to choose how the demise is going to happen for you. You know, there's a huge difference. And then that final image of, again, she's in a new glass cage, but there's so much, there's a background to it. You know, she's choosing to be in this one. It's as if she's looking back at the audience or looking outward towards society, knowing she's in a new cage, but this is the one that she wants to be in. And for the first time in her existence, she feels like she has the choice. And she'll go in with everyone else because she feels like she's one of them. She feels like she belongs. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. But it's freedom, folks. It's freedom is the thing. And that's worth everything that she goes through.